No, it's not loving it. So I might show you my screen and show you actually you'll see a little bit of the process agenda, because that's where the question is. But it's funny because all these quotes that we think are from certain people, all of a sudden someone will say, oh, that's not that person. It wasn't that person's quote. But to my knowledge, this is Mark Twain's quote. And if I had more time, I would have written you a shorter letter. So the question is, how does striving for brevity affect your dissemination efforts? So we know we don't have a ton of time and attention. So I'm going to put it in the chat. So how does striving for brevity affect your dissemination efforts? Hi, Michelle. And I think I'm going to ask our facilitators and Julia, if as people are thinking about how they strive for brevity in their dissemination efforts, did you all have any thoughts about it?
Sure. I think this is a wonderful quote for today's conversation, because today we are going to be talking about how to start thinking about new ways to disseminate information. We are going to be talking about reels. And when we think about reels, we feel like, but oh my God, how I'm going to fit all that information in 90 seconds, right? So thinking about the quote about like, I should have written that a letter, shorter. It's all about attention. It is all about like, how do I find ways to communicate my message, be effective and be engaging, but having a completely mindset change that is going to allow me to be creative at the same time. So I think that really applies to the things that we are going to be discussing today, a new approach.
Awesome. I love it that you connected the two. Thanks, Eliana. Others, how does striving for brevity?
And Jennifer, I find that when I spend the time, can you hear me, Jennifer?
It was going out, but you want to try it again?
I mean, my comment is just, I find whenever I'm writing, no matter what it is, the short.
You're going out a little bit. Sorry, Julia, but
can you hear me now, Jennifer?
It's still going out. Sorry about that. Does anyone else want to share? It's a challenge to ask other team members the importance. Ask or remind, yeah. Less is more. Makes you think about the real message. I love that, like the essence of what, in the end, what are you trying to accomplish with your communication? Oh, simple word list. I love that. A plain language link. That's a great idea.
Yeah, so this is like, prior to can become before, or in order to is just to. So you can, even at that micro level, save on space. Yeah.
That's one of my strongest memories from doctoral preparation is my advisor editing in order to, and all those longer terms.
Yeah.
Shared definition, how things are titled. Interesting. Okay, yeah. So that's some shared language that you can count on. Good, but not jargony. Yeah, and how do you get at accuracy and still be brief enough? That is a great challenge. What the communication objective is. Yep, and constantly referring back to it. Excellent. I love that point. What are we trying to accomplish here? Because when you first learn about something, you like want to spray it, right? Like, oh, we're gonna get it everywhere. We're going to use this one platform for everything. And you haven't necessarily considered what you're trying to do and if it will help you, the communication will help you accomplish it. Good. Thank you so much, everyone, for your good thinking about that. I'm going to turn it over now. I'm going to give the stage to Rebecca Hornak, one of our co-facilitators. And I always do this. I forgot to introduce myself. If you haven't been at a previous meeting, I think most of you or all of you have, but I'm Jennifer Coffey from OSEP. I am the CSEP, State Implementation Scaling Up Evidence-Based Practices DA Center Project Officer, and Julia Martin-Isle is here from OSEP as well. And she is the Technical Assistance and Dissemination Program Lead. So she oversees the T&D work. And she was having some connection problems, but hopefully we'll be back on. And then Eliana Tardio is with us, one of our co-facilitators, and she is working in a couple different centers, and she's going to tell you some more about that. But one is National Center on Systemic Improvement, NCSI, which Michelle Rovens is a leader of. And then she's also working on National Center on Education Outcomes. She's going to talk some about that work today. And Rebecca Hornak, who is responsible for communication for CSEP. And you heard last time she shared some problems of practice that CSEP has encountered in communications, which was great. So I will turn it over to Rebecca. Thank you.
All right. Well, good morning, good afternoon, depending on where you are at. We're just going to go through a quick summary of what our last meeting was for those who were not able to attend. And we're going to try to utilize some tools within Zoom if you haven't used them already. So actually, here's a prime example of something Shoshana and I are playing with. She's sharing her screen, but has given me the right to control those slides. So if you didn't know that was a feature in Zoom, you might want to check it out. All right, so our last meeting, ooh, it's a little wonky. We'll get there. Back one more. There we go. So our last meeting, we shared the mimosa with everyone. You filled out a survey and we reflected on that survey at our last meeting and the results, and gave everybody an opportunity to really think about the reactions and the reflections, because ultimately we want this to be a learning community. We want to be a community where we are able to come together and share and learn with one another. So we want to make sure that our purpose and why we're here meets everybody's needs, because I will be openly and honest, we don't need just another meeting to have a meeting. We want to make this valuable, and we want to be purposeful and very intentional around our time together. So you basically, the feedback that you gave us was you love the idea of coming together to learn and share strategies and platforms and to really problem solve, learning more about each other's centers' dissemination efforts through that process. A couple of concerns you had around the mimosa that we pulled was the idea of reviewing and providing feedback on communication plans was a little bit of a concern. So we pulled back on that. And then committing to the focus on disseminating other centers' content. We all agree we will share each other's content free and willing as long as it meets our audience's needs. That was something we wanted to make sure that we lifted up, that you being part of this group doesn't mean that you are going to have to retweet and reshare all of CSEP Center's material, for example. It's what your audience needs, but it's helpful to know what each of the centers have and what they're disseminating at any given time. All right, so when we looked at the data, our meeting times are going to be Tuesdays every other month for about an hour and a half. And we also had some time to take a look at a challenge I was having with dissemination, something we wanted to grow in at CSEP, and we practiced the protocol of the 15% solution. 3 small change items that we pulled from your solutions. We're really taking a close look and examining our audience. After somebody posted in the Padlet about how our blog seems to be shifting in our target audience. It was spot on feedback. When I looked, sometimes our authors are writing for those who are doing implementation science. They are the practitioners of implementation science. Sometimes it's written for teachers and district administrators. Sometimes it was written for a more global audience. And so we're really fine tuning when we're writing our blogs, who the target audience is. Additionally, some feedback that we took back was the concept of having more guest co-authors. When I took a deeper dive into our Google Analytics, sure enough, all of our blogs that were co-authored with additional agencies were higher in regards to the number of hits and reads. And then finally, someone suggested providing the blogs in a searchable format. We are actually in the process of redesigning and reorganizing the website. And so we're taking a close look at that. So those are 3 small changes that we're making to the dissemination of our blog. and shifting our newsletter a little bit. So I just wanted to thank you guys for that valuable feedback, and I'll let you know in a couple months what our data says. So thank you. Your homework from the last meeting. We wanted you to go ahead and take a look at everyone's Twitter accounts. Get on Twitter, take a look at the different centers. What are people posting? What do their profiles look like? So I just want to gauge to see how we did here. Now, you can use the annotated feature. If you are not familiar with how annotation works in Zoom, if you go up to your view options at the top of the screen, hit the little arrow, you'll see an annotate option. You click on annotate and you're going to have a ton of different stuff pop up. Click on the stamp, for example, and you can add a heart, a check mark to wherever your cursor goes. So if you are a hatchling and you were able to check out maybe 1 to 7 profiles, kind of just getting started in that world, go ahead and put a heart underneath the hatchling, or a check mark, or a star. If you are a fledgling, you felt like, yeah, I got a little beyond that, and I checked out 8 to 16 profiles of my colleagues, go ahead and put a heart or a star or a check mark underneath there. And if you are an adult bird and you are flying out of that coop and you have checked everybody out and you're super geeked, go ahead and mark that underneath the adult bird. Now, if your annotation feature is not working, please feel free to put your ratings right into the chat. You can mark, hey, I'm a hatchling, I'm a fledgling, I'm an adult bird. You can also put that right in the chat if the annotation doesn't work the best for you. So I'll give you a sec to kind of mark where you're at. All right. I know, just looking at our own Twitter feed on a regular basis and looking at our numbers for our monthly report, I gained a couple of followers from additional TA and D centers from OSEP over the last month and a half. So thank you very much. All right. Super excited to see that we're getting involved. We're checking out each other's profiles. I also noted that the spreadsheet we provided, I was missing quite a few, and you guys were very gracious in adding your information to that spreadsheet. So we're getting a more complete picture and a complete list of everybody who's participating in the group, making sure all centers are recognized. So thank you. Okay. What I'd like you to do now is, if you would, in the chat, go ahead and put one thing you learned from this experience. What is one thing you pulled from a center's profile? What is one thing you learned about Twitter, maybe? What is maybe a noticing that you had? So take a minute and in chat, add. So for example, Cass worked to follow the other centers. Thank you very much, Cass. I noticed a follow from you recently as well. So one thing you took away from your homework, or a noticing you had, go ahead and pop that right into the chat. Filtering through Twitter is something is not one of my favorite activities involved in my job, Alex. So I completely understand. Oh, Christine, that's a really good point. I've noticed variability also in regards to how often people are posting, and what they're posting varies greatly, especially on the different platforms. I also took the opportunity to check out things like Facebook and Twitter, or I mean, TikTok, and I looked at, I think we had one group, trying to think of the other platform I looked at, but it's interesting how the content shifts, right? And how often people are able to post, and the intentionality behind it. All right. So thank you. Volume and content focus varied a great deal. Pinning tweets, that's a really great suggestion. I also copied Cast right now has a webinar in their header of their Twitter, and I've never put it in my header before. I've always just pinned it. So I took that idea, Cast, and I put our next webinar up in our header as well on Twitter. So thank you. Yes, I love being able to look at who's following who and pulling that data. You can also do profile searches, and you can pull analytics from all of the different Twitter centers or all of the profiles and do comparisons of your own center to those who match in descriptions. I've done that before as well. Okay, thank you for participating. So the next thing we're going to do is talk about our purpose for today. Why are we here together in our busy January? And the first is to build a shared purpose, to recognize where we're at with our process. We're just getting off at the ground, and it's important to understand why we're here. The second is learn a new dissemination strategy and consider if it might be useful in your own communication planning. And then finally, get to know us as a group, get to know your colleagues within this space. So what I want to do is take a minute and go ahead and use the annotative feature again, if you would, and go ahead and put stars next to the one that you're really excited about, put a question mark next to one of the purposes if you have a question you'd like to ask, but let us know kind of, are we good with this? I want to make sure everybody is on the same page and that we're comfortable with our purpose here today before I transfer it over. All right, looks like we're looking good. I'm looking in the chat, Andrew. And I noticed the same. CoP started a LinkedIn account probably about a year ago, year and a half ago. Trying to grow that because I'm able to target individuals as well as organizations more specifically on that. All right. I think we are ready to go. So Shoshana, you can stop sharing the screen. Thank you so much for letting me play with that tool today and running the slides and learning that process. And I'm going to turn it on over.
As I always say, don't get too comfortable. Sometimes you're in a meeting and you think, oh, good, I just get to learn this meeting. I think that. And I also think I get to eat while I learn. That's how I see the world. But we do have a purpose. We are going to be working together. And in a second, you're going to be in a breakout group. And in the breakout group, you're going to talk about what you want to accomplish. So we have our vision, mission, objectives, strategies, and actions. They'll be shaped over time. Now that you're starting to dig in, you're learning from others. You've looked at each other's Twitter. You've heard from CSAP, a problem of practice. It's time to think about this group, how we're going to work together each time we meet, every other month for an hour and a half. So to do that, I don't know if anyone's ever heard of a liberating structure or liberating structures before. They've actually been around for a while, but it's one of those things that you keep on rediscovering. And I'm excited every time I rediscover it. But has anyone ever done open space? I think that's one of the more popular ones. Open space is from liberating structures, and it's where you can be a butterfly and move from meeting to meeting, etc. So this is one of the many activities. It's formats for discussion for different purposes. And purpose to practice is an activity that helps you think about what your purpose is as a group and what your purpose is individually goes into that. So be thinking about your purpose for being part of this dissemination community of practice. And what rules do you want folks to obey in pursuit of the purpose? And this is kind of old language, obey. We don't use so much any. But what would you expect people to do? What are the principles to follow as we meet as a group, as we do homework, as we work together to accomplish something? And who should be included? Is there anyone who's not been joining us, either from your group or you can think of from another group or even from OSEP, from the department, who else do you think needs to be included to achieve our purpose? And then structure. We've talked, we're going to meet an hour and a half every other month. We have some homework that we're doing. Are there any tweaks we need to do to that? Is there anything else, any other way we need to distribute control? So could we have people from the group, could you facilitate one of the sessions? Would that be better if we have various facilitators? Or do you want us to just stick with the 4 facilitators as it is now? How else do you want to do it? You're in various meetings that we're not in, so you probably have ideas for us. And then what are we going to do? What will we offer to other users and clients, and how? So that's the purpose to practice. You're going to be in a breakout group, randomly assigned, where you get to think about all of these. And I'm going to put the link to this into the chat so you can go to the screen and see what it's all about. So you'll have 10 minutes to share with each other what you would like to accomplish as a group and some ideas about how you might do that. And then after that 10 minutes, you'll have 10 minutes. We're going to bring you back into the main room, and then you'll have 10 minutes to add your thoughts to a Jamboard that Rebecca created. So you're going to put a little note on that purpose all the way to the practice of your thoughts. And then as a larger group, we'll talk about what is in those individual areas of purpose to practice. So I'm going to put the directions right now in the chat. So 1, you're going to break out and discuss your purpose to practice ideas. Then 2, you are going to individually add notes to the Jamboard. And then 3, as a group, we'll look for themes. Any questions about that process or why we're doing it? All right. And also, I think it's safe to give you all the Jamboard link too. As you're discussing as a group, if you want to put anything on the Jamboard, that works too. So let me go ahead and put the link to the Jamboard. And if anyone has trouble using a Jamboard, I would think someone in your group has probably used it before. You pick a new note and then you add it. You can do it in lots of different colors. All right. So any questions, any needs before we break out? Okay, so Shoshana's going to start breaking us out right now.
Yeah, we saw all the activity going on and wanted to keep you in the group a little longer because I think there's a lot to think about, and we really watched you engage quite well in all of this activity. So I know there was a bunch of breakout groups. I don't know if folks want to talk about the activity and how you felt it worked. You start with your purpose at the top. We have a lot of boxes there. It looks like sharing, leveraging your resources is a big purpose. Inclusion of all related audience to communicate, so that you're seeing a lot of sharing and accessibility. Do folks want to chime in and tell us a little bit more about how they felt about the purpose? Do you feel like from what you're seeing on here that we've identified the purpose for your work? I see people are still working too.
I wonder do folks want like 5 more minutes to add in information, or do you all feel like this is a good stopping place to see the themes across?
So what's nice about this activity is it really helps you to think about your Vermosa. And we'll be able to take this language and kind of put it into a document where we can look at it and come back to it and maybe evolve from it. it looks to me, I'm trying to read some of these, they're a little harder to read. Drive clients to resources to support their goals is another great purpose. And then moving on to practices, respect for each other, letting data guide our decisions, which is always great. Openness and lack of competitiveness. I think that's great to create a group where we feel there's trust and ability to share all of our great ideas with one another so it benefits the field. There's positive intent. And then also recognizing the uniqueness of different centers with different purposes. That's definitely true. Any other thoughts from folks, or do you want to talk about how you felt working through this activity today?
We also kind of talked about the way in which this community of practice can not only impact our projects, but our larger orgs and the way we think about dissemination and communication and kind of that larger space, internal communications and external facing communications, and even thinking about how we navigate communicating when we're a center situated in a really large organization, or we're a sub for a large organization. So we have the protocols of a university or a WestEd or an SRI that we also have to kind of push through. What are the considerations and things that we have to take into account there? And then, not really related to this point, but we added another column into the spreadsheet to try to capture more people. And so it's like secondary points of contact and their email, so that we would just be able to kind of collect. We have representation from lots of folks, and everyone wasn't able to find their space. So we just added a column, just FYI.
Yeah, and when we saw that comment, I was curious, secondary point of contact within your own center, so that if you can't make the call, there's somebody else who's hearing that. Yeah, that's what you mean by that. Okay, great. I thought that was a great idea we hadn't discussed with the internal group. I also like hearing, Corey, you talk about experts outside of just your TA center. I see a big blue with experts outside of early childhood. I know I work in that early childhood area, and we're always looking to build upon our dissemination expertise around inclusion, because we are the inclusion experts, and we want folks outside of early childhood special education to be able to understand what that means to have inclusive practices. So we're looking at Head Start and childcare and beyond preschool development grants. We're looking beyond our own experts within OSEP in early childhood.
So
folks,
this is, I'm
yeah,
sorry.
go ahead, Nora.
Nora Thompson. And sort of conversely to what Corey was talking about, some of us are very small shops. And to be able to look at some of how, to be able to tap into examples and strategies that other folks are doing allows us to sort of leverage great ideas and modify them. So we don't have the restraints of being a sub project within and having other things in play, but we don't have communication teams, and we don't have social media folks, and we don't. So it's being able to look at that, besides being envious, and tap into some of the great ideas there.
That's great, Nora. Yeah, absolutely. Really trying to get resources and information when you're a small shop and don't have the funds to be able to create them yourselves. That's great sharing. I know on our last TA&D network call, we had the Equity Assistance Centers on, and they, I know there was a lot of connection being made with that group as well. I think that they might be another expert to consider on our Excel chart as a way to continue to communicate with them and have them share, as well as join us from time to time. Any other comments from the groups that were in breakouts? Well, just to go around the circle, we see accessibility across most of the circles. So I know we're constantly thinking about accessibility as we share with you all. And I know that's an important piece of it. And then practices have agenda in advance, so centers can tailor participation accordingly. I think we're trying very hard to get an agenda to you guys in advance and homeworks to think about, but also, more feedback from you all is always great too. And then share, plan inclusive language guidelines with each other for cross-pollination.
Yeah, that was a group that I was in with Corey. And so I think our center's gotten a lot better at using the plain language guidelines, but we're just starting to tackle inclusive language. And Corey said Daisy has some guidelines for that, but we need to brainstorm what that language is going to be for Cipher. So any of those resources that are available, anti-bias language across any center would be very interesting to share.
I know that some of the early childhood centers have worked together for creating an equity statement also, and they have them on their page, the front page of their centers that talk about the language to use, right? So, absolutely. Other comments? So I know from here, Jen, are we going to be adding this into the Vimosa so that they can see their work? That's our next step, right?
Yeah, and our plan for our meetings going forward, so that we can at least have add some meat onto our plans and have a more coherent, this is what we're going to be accomplishing together in this next year, and this is how we'll do it, as aligned to our vision, mission, objectives, strategies. So yeah, we'll be making some modifications in the Vimosa and then making an overall plan.
This is Nora. I have a question. One of the things and practices that was talked about was, as TA folks, we may not be the communications person from our organization if we had that. But I wondered if was ever any thought of bringing in out of this network on occasion communication experts or dissemination experts that go beyond, that go beyond that and do that for their living, that could give maybe some strategies.
That was part of the participants question. So if you could add that onto the Jamboard, that would be great. That was like, how do we need to expand? Definitely includes subject matter experts. So yeah, if there's a specific topic that people feel like, it'd be really great to hear from an expert, then that'd be absolutely appropriate. Is my audio okay, Julia? Okay.
Yes, so great. Okay, moving along in our agenda. I'm pulling it back up. I'm turning this over to Eliana and Andrew.
Yep. Thank you. Thank you, Julia. So I wanted to start sharing an article that is very interesting. I'm gonna put the link in the chat, so if you have time to take a look at this. These are the predictions for social media for 2023. And because today we are gonna be talking with Andrew about TikTok, I thought this will be interesting to start this conversation. So at least you have an idea of the why behind this short presentation on Reels. So this is a very good article that it is led by the most well-known social media expert and marketing experts in the US. And as you can see in here, you're gonna see things like TikTok's popularity will continue to grow. And when we think about TikTok, we are thinking about Reels or short videos. It is talking about how everything is changing. So probably you're still thinking that horizontal videos are the trend, when instead short form vertical videos are taking over right now. So this is just an introduction, so you understand why we are talking about this. And again, if you have some time, you can go and take a look at the link. But with that, I'm gonna invite Andrew to join so he can start talking about the work that we are doing under NCO.
Hello, everybody. I'm Andrew Hinkle, National Center on Educational Outcomes, NCEO, and someone said something in our breakout group. I think that NCEO is the longest continuously funded OSEP Technical Assistance Center. We were first funded in 1990. So if that's not true, let me know, because I've always kind of been under that impression, and this is a great group to ask. But we've been around for a long time, and our mission, as it were, is the inclusion of students with disabilities in assessment systems. So think state tests, but also local level tests and classroom formative assessment practices, that kind of stuff. Relatively small shop. I think we have about 15 staff in our center. So how did we get into Reels? I think that's what I'm supposed to share with you. So I've been at NCO about 2 years, and when I first joined, and previous to that, I was at the Ohio Department of Education for 15 in the Special Education Division. And when I started at NCEO, and I was preparing probably for my interview, I was checking them out on social media, and I noticed they didn't have a LinkedIn page. And so, because that's like one of the first places I went, right, when you're thinking about jobs and interviews. And so after I was hired, I mentioned that. And I also got into their other platforms, and it really wasn't very well curated, the whole social media presence. And so when I talked to my director, Cheryl Lazarus, about it, she was kind of like, well, then why don't you take over the social media stuff? So, okay, all right, fine. So then we created a LinkedIn page, and we started a social media like plan, right? Dissemination plan. Soon thereafter, one of our partners gave us on loan someone named Cindy Caldwell, and Cindy helped us create a social media, what she called the street team, and we still go by the social media street team. And she was with us for a while, and then she was transferred, or she went to do different work. And so they gave us Eliana Tardillo. And Eliana, you're talking about subject matter experts. She is a subject matter expert. She is a social media influencer, and she is extraordinary. We're very super fortunate to be able to work with Eliana. When she came on board, she was like, you guys got to do Reels. That's the new hot thing. Everyone's got to do Reels. And I'm like, sure, okay. And it honestly took a little bit of convincing of the director to go that way, but we did. So that's how we ended up doing our first Reels. I think we're the first TA center that's in TikTok too. So that's it. Eliana, you want to go take over?
So to give you some background about what it is a Reel, there you go, Nora. I was prepared to answer. So Reels are full screen vertical videos that can be up to 90 seconds long on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. They go up to 3 minutes on TikTok. The shorter, the better, because talking about the beginning of this meeting, we wanna be very precise and we wanna create engaging but short content. TikTok leads the way with its unique augmented reality, AR, and virtual reality, VR. So they are leaders in the platform. They started actually the trend on Reels. And even though not everyone is ready to go on TikTok, something interesting to know is that Reels can be uploaded again to Facebook, to Instagram, and YouTube. They are called shorts on YouTube. So if you use YouTube, it is just a different approach to the way to actually disseminate information. So how Reels have changed the world of social media. So, you know, TikTok doubled its worldwide user base between 2019 and 2021. In the middle of the pandemic, that was the boom for TikTok. So people stay home and they started watching videos. They used to be only entertaining and everything was about having fun. That has completely changed. But so you have an idea of the influence of TikTok and Reels in the social media world. They went from 291 millions to 655 millions worldwide. So we are talking about the largest growth in the whole history of social media. By 2025, it will approach 1 billion users, according to Insider Intelligence. That is a very well-known marketing research agency in the US. So that's very good data to actually support, the use of Reels. And how to make the best of Reels. This is what we are going to be showing you today. Reels can be created inside each one of these platforms, but competition among them is growing and is getting, worse and worse. So once you create the reel inside a platform, you can download the reel, which is a big feature. People actually go and download information and reuse information, but this information is watermarked. Jennifer, you wanted to ask something?
Yeah, just Nora asked this question, but I have the same one. Could you just define reels for the start, since I haven't used them?
Yeah. So, I was saying at the beginning that Reels are full screen vertical videos that can be up to 90 seconds on Facebook and YouTube and Instagram. And this is exactly the same format that is going to be used for TikTok. But in the case of TikTok, it can go up to 3 minutes.
We're going to show you one in a minute, so you'll get an idea.
Okay, so you're going to describe, I guess.
We're going to show you one, yeah.
Yes,
Vertical versus horizontal.
Yeah, just giving you some content so you understand what we are going to be showing you and you can connect the pieces. So that is good to know. Again, I was saying you can create reels inside each one of the platforms, but something that we are going to be showing you today is actually how creating these reels in home is going to give you a much more a bigger opportunity to actually maximize the content and be able to disseminate that reel in different platforms. So with that, I'm gonna give it to Andrew again, so Andrew can explain what we are going to be showing you next.
Okay, so we're going to show you two reels, well, more than two, but we're going to show you two kind of buckets that we've got so far. One that I'm going to be talking about is where we take something that's very dense, research-based, academic kind of paper and turn it into something that is accessible and easy to digest for all kinds of people. And then Eliana's going to show you a different style of reel. In our case, and Eliana, you're going to be sharing the screen?
Yes.
So I'm going to show you first the original document, the original paper. And I can't see it because.
Can you see it?
Yep, I can see it. So, so this is a research analysis of going back to, I think, 2000 or 1999 of all of the academic research about this particular accommodation, the human read aloud. And you can see that it's pretty easy to read, but it's all citations and academics and that. This particular toolkit has, for every accommodation, there's more than 24 accommodations in the toolkit. There's a research analysis, and then there is a breakdown of the state's policies about that particular accommodation. So you get the idea of where we started, okay? Then what we did is we pulled the information, and I say pulled information, like literally some cut and paste from this, some selected information, and cleaned up the citations and some of the language so it's much more easier on the eyes. We put them on what they're called, what's called cards. You'll see it in a second. And cleaned it up. And for each one, because there's a lot of information, we had two. That's the graphics. Yep. So we had to break it into two parts, part one and part two, since there's a lot of information, and the reels by nature, by definition, are short. So let's play the first one for you.
Accommodations Toolkit, Human Read Aloud. Part 2 of 2.
Sorry, that was the second one. I'm gonna go with the first one.
Accommodations Toolkit, Human Read Aloud. Part 1 of 2. The research presented in this video is from NCEO's Accommodations Toolkit found at nceo.info. The Accommodations Toolkit presents research fact sheets for more than 24 accommodations organized by type. The toolkit also includes a policy analysis that summarizes how each accommodation was included in states' accessibility policies.
What is Human Read Aloud? Human Read Aloud is an oral test accommodation typically provided live by a test administrator, proctor, or other accommodations provider. The accommodations provider may read the test directions, test questions, answer choices and, in some cases, reading passages or academic content. Human Read Aloud is typically combined with other accommodations such as extended time or small group setting. What are the research findings on who should use Human Read Aloud? Human Read Aloud may benefit some elementary or secondary students with disabilities, including some students with learning disabilities, dyslexia, visual impairments including blindness, or deaf or hard of hearing. Human Read Aloud may also benefit some students whose disabilities impact their skills in decoding text, language processing, or accessing text across different academic content assessments.
Individualized education program team members should refer to their state's policy when making decisions about a student's assessment accommodations. All research is cited in the toolkit. To learn more, visit nceo.info.
So there you go. There's the first one.
Accommodations Toolkit, Human Read Aloud. Part 2 of 2. The research presented in this video is from NCEO's Accommodations Toolkit found at nceo.info. The Accommodations Toolkit presents research fact sheets for more than 24 accommodations organized by type. The toolkit also includes a policy analysis that summarizes how each accommodation was included in states' accessibility policies.
What have we learned overall about Human Read Aloud? There were mixed findings regarding the effect of the Human Read Aloud accommodation across grade levels in the 3 content areas studied: reading, math, and science. It is important to note that some students may benefit from this accommodation, but many may not. It was found that if students do not know the content that items are assessing, Read Aloud will not improve performance. The research also suggests that many educators may need to learn how to confidently make decisions about when to select the Human Read Aloud accommodation, as well as how to implement this accommodation. Both students and educators generally had positive perceptions of Human Read Aloud, but many preferred technology-based Read Aloud that may provide greater independence to students. Technology-based Read Aloud is also less taxing on educators and school resources. The mixed results on the effects of Human Read Aloud on student assessment performance reinforces the need for further research on the use of the Human Read Aloud accommodation. There is a need for research that delves more into the specific characteristics of students who benefit from Human Read Aloud, as well as for research that examines whether this accommodation is provided in a consistent and standardized way.
Individualized education program team members should refer to their state's policy when making decisions about a student's assessment accommodations. All research is cited in the toolkit. To learn more, visit nceo.info.
So there you go. So we took a 5-page academic paper and pulled out the key elements, put them together, and in less than 5 minutes, you can get all of that information. Still, the language is a little bit high, a little bit complexity level, but it is kind of, it's still a little research based, but it's still much more accessible than asking someone to go through a 5-page paper. You'll notice at the beginning and the end are the same. They're templates. And that's because you don't know that someone's going to be watching these in series. They may just stumble across any one single video, so you have to have that same information repeated for each of all of the videos. I don't know. That's about all I've got to say. Any questions or comments? There is something about the ban in the government, and I think Eliana can talk to that because we talk about it all the time. I just saw Sunday that Ohio, the governor of Ohio, I'm in Ohio, banned TikTok on all government devices. So
Right. And I was talking to Andrew on the team about that. We are going through the same exact situation that happened with Facebook, with Instagram, with every social media outlet. So it's nothing new. I mean, it is the process, you know, of getting trendy on social media that we know about all these bans and all that. The same happened to YouTube. Then YouTube came back as an educational resource. And that's actually the evolution of the Reels right now. We are going a change in what a reel means, because 2023 is also predicted to be the year in which it's going to turn into something much more educational. With that, I'm going to go to introducing the next reel that is a completely different approach, and we are going to have time at the very end to get questions and comments. But this is a completely different approach to dissemination of information. As you will see in this reel that I'm going to be showing you, the reel has been created with home videos or videos captured by a smartphone, in this case, my smartphone. The people that you're going to see in this video is my family. These are my 2 children. And the video uses a collection of organic activities at home to create visual content that goes along with the information provided through the voiceover. This video, something important about this, is not supposed, this style of reel is not supposed to look professional, but to be relatable. It creates engagement through a combination of emotions and information because it is targeted to engage families. It is family friendly and it uses easy and digestible language that can be understood and processed by most families, and it follows the trend of easy, digestible, engaging, and relatable. So I'm gonna go ahead and show you this one. Give me 1 second. Give me 1 second.
Andrew and Eliana, there was a question about who the different reels are
Many
focused
of
on, who
us
your
have
audiences are. So just keeping in mind that that question has been posed.
Yeah. And this
And-
is going to help you to understand, you know, how it can serve different audiences. The one that Andrew was showing was very research-based. And this one is something completely different that is more targeted to families. That's why, again, we were explaining that this one is supposed to look completely different and look, you know, like probably not as professional as the previous one. So now it is working. So I'm going to go ahead and share.
Many of us had negative experiences of testing when we were in school. We grew up thinking of testing as a stressful experience meant to punish students for not paying attention or to embarrass those who didn't understand the content. Based on those experiences, it is just natural that without even realizing it, we pass those same negative impressions to our own children.
Sorry.
Students for not paying attention or to embarrass those who didn't understand the content. Based on those experiences, it is just natural that without even realizing it, we pass those same negative impressions to our own children.
Maybe we need to rethink our adult attitudes toward testing so we can help our children think about it in a different way. When we understand that testing is actually an important opportunity for our children to show what they know and can do, we can better support our children when testing time comes around. Some things about testing to think about. The scores are a good way to gauge our child's progress towards their personal dreams for a career or being ready for education after high school. It is also an opportunity to find out how well our schools are meeting students' academic needs. They provide critical information to your school district and the state on how well all students in your child's schools are doing. This is an important information because it is used to determine what resources schools will receive. They allow teachers and principals to identify specific academic needs for different groups of students and to make improvements to instruction that can help all students succeed. These results highlight gaps in students' learning, so steps can be taken to ensure all students are supported in making meaningful progress. Results also help state policymakers and local school boards identify schools that may need more assistance or additional resources. When you talk with your child about testing in a positive and motivating way, they can get excited about sharing what they know because they understand that their test results influence their school in important ways. You know your child better than anyone. Believing in their ability and telling them how wonderful they are can help prepare them for testing and everything else in life. So as you can see, that is something completely different for a different target audience. And something important about this video is that it was created in collaboration inside the PLG group by NCO. So there was a combination of people participating behind the development of the script. We had state directors, we have people from parent centers, we had also TA members, and that's how we put together the script. So we captured together the most important ideas. We shaped those ideas to create the initial draft script. The script went through revision. We came back, we created the video. So it was a team effort. So would you like to add something to that, Andrew?
Sure. So that particular reel was a mock-up. That's more like a draft. That's not a final product. Just so you know, you might have seen some where the text didn't match the speech and that kind of thing. That was the original one we put together based on the initial feedback from this peer learning group that we had compiled. So we took their ideas, we put them together. Eliana made that reel, then we took it to them and said, okay, what do you guys think? So after that one, we got more input on the content of the reel, the language that was used, even the images, everything about that. So that was our first step. We're now working on the final product from that one. But it was an iterative process and it included our stakeholders. Like she said, we invited state education state education agency assessment people, state education agency special education people, and then parent center, state parent center people to come in to have the voice of the parent, to give us the perspective of the parent. And then that group of people that participated gave us the content. And in fact, like we did the Jamboards today, one of the activities we did was, what do parents need to know about participation in state assessments? And did a Jamboard, literally took their language from that Jamboard and used that to create the script that you heard in that draft, sort of. So.
Yeah, and to clarify, it is a mock-up, and it is a mock-up using a intelligent technology from TikTok. So that's why you see the captions like that. They don't provide, like an accurate 100% caption. So we wanted to see how it works and how we can use all the features inside TikTok to be able to pull the reel together. So there are some questions in the chat. where do we post the reels? We were talking at the beginning, we create the reels in-house. So I create the videos so we can be able to actually use them inside Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. So they will be distributed to the 3 different platforms at the same time. In each one of the platforms, there is this feature that you can create the captions. The good thing about that when thinking about accessibility, again, it's not like a perfect caption, but it can be edited. It can be done, you know, like a very good quality when you invest time to editing and creating the right caption. But something good about that is that people can actually read the caption in different languages too. So that's the good thing about the reels and the features that are coming with accessibility. So do you have more questions, comments? And Michael is saying, wonderful video. I found this one more engaging. And again, it is supposed to be more engaging because it is supposed to be more emotional. And actually the target audience is families. So we know that families wanna see themselves in the video and they wanna relate to the content, which is always gonna be another family, right?
Ileana, can I ask a quick question? This is Amy. I was wondering if there's a difference, you know, I know obviously across different social media platforms with like written or visual platforms, there might be different like kind of styles that work better on different platforms. Is that the same with reels? Like, do different styles work better if you do the reel on TikTok versus Instagram versus Facebook? Or is it more like just dependent on the audience per se? Like I know that like the reels now are like in the algorithms or whatnot, right? Are tending to get like more emphasis compared to even just like a visual or a, you know, word-based post or something like that. So now people just put stuff behind a like text post and post that as a reel too. But I was just curious if you, from your understanding, if you had a
for sure, you know, something that we know about TikTok, it is that it is evolving. So always, you know, on TikTok, everything engaging that is gonna be people, you see stuff happening, is gonna be much more engaging. We are basically trying to open a new market with NCO, you know, by playing reels they are more serious. But when thinking about educational purposes, Facebook and Instagram is gonna be much more appropriate if we think about, you know, that we have actually audiences that use those platforms to disseminate information. But again, you know, it is the beginning. So that's the good thing about social media, is ever evolving. And that's why we highly recommend to try to use it everywhere, because it is for sure the beginning of educational and informative purposes for TikTok.
There's also a little bit difference in the 2 reels we showed you, in that the one that Eliana showed, the reel is to share the information about the importance of participation and assessments to parents. That is the purpose of that reel. The one I showed you, it was not only to share the information, but really it's to drive traffic back to the website for people to look at the accommodations toolkit. Because like I said, there's like 28, more than 24 accommodations in that toolkit. So hopefully in a bite-sized piece, we can get people interested and they'll want to go over to see more. So there's a little bit different purpose in the reels too.
Yes.
To that point, Andrew, is there a way to include a link in, other than just saying, you know, you can find more at NCO, you know, website, in the reel itself? Is there a way to link
Get a live
to the resource that you were talking about, like in the description of the reel, or, you know, something? Is that like the intent to?
Not inside TikTok, but inside Facebook, yes, you
Okay.
can do that. And you can use stories to actually direct people to the link, so you can embed the link. And with that, we are gonna transition to Rebecca because we don't have much time, but thank you so much.
Okay, so I'm going to go really, really quick due to time. But one of the strategies that we started, that I thought about utilizing with this particular group, is the concept of a digital bulletin board. So we want to hear from you. We want to know, what resources do you have to share? What strategies are successful? Are you having a challenge right now you'd like help with? Are you looking for a collaborator or a partner? So we want to give voice. We also want to pull from this and say, okay, who wants to share at the next meeting and get some ideas of what you're doing and things of that nature. So in the chat, I'm going to put a link to a Padlet. And this is an internal process that we actually started up at NERN. We have a lot of moving parts. We have a lot of projects. And what we always found was we spent more time at meetings talking about updates than we did actually doing the learning and the good conversation. And so we designed a digital bulletin board. It goes out Monday before our staff meeting. People can add, celebrations. They can add things of that nature. I'm going to go ahead and show you what our NERN one looks like. So this was from December. We have team appreciation. Everybody posted when they're going to be out of the office for the upcoming break. We had NERN updates and all of our crazy projects that we have going on, all of the different projects. So it's an opportunity for us to share without taking up a whole lot of meeting time. So that's what we're going to do today. You have a few minutes. I provided some additional kind of jumping off points in the Padlet. There's a section for resources, dissemination strategies, challenges, if you're looking to collaborate, maybe events or publications you're currently disseminating that you thought would be of interest to the group that we could also take a look at. But this bulletin board is here. We can send it out in a reminder email, and it can kind of be like our landing place. We can refer to it at the beginning of the meeting. We can double check to make sure it's updated at the end of the meeting, but it's just a structure I thought I would introduce as a potential possibility. So I'll give you a few minutes to kind of look through. Go ahead and throw any questions you might have, either on mic or throw it in the chat, and we can go on from there. And I think I'm turning it back over to you, Eliana, for homework.
Yes, so this is exciting. We have a group now inside OSEP Works. So I'm gonna put here in the chat the link, and I'm gonna show you really fast how to get there and what to do. Everyone is invited to join, and we will love you to join because we are gonna have our first activity inside our group. So when you go to OSEP Engage OSEP, sorry, then you're gonna see this page. If you haven't registered yet, sorry, then you have to do that. If you have done it, you can log in, and then you need to go to groups. Inside groups, you're gonna see technical assistant and dissemination groups. You can click in here. And here you're gonna find our dissemination community of practice. So you can open and see the group, and you are gonna need to request to join the group so we can start working and engaging and having some fun inside our group. So that is our big announcement for today. And after that, we do have 2 questions that we would like to invite you to answer, and you can do this inside the group. Give me 1 second. Yeah, so we have these 2 questions. So if you can think about this is going to be our homework. The first one is how to use Reels, and the second one, how to reach families. And again, you can use the group, or if you are having any trouble with the group, you can contact Jennifer and she's going to be able to help. Or in the process of being, I think, approved, I think that is going to happen really fast. But anyways, if not, you can always have Jennifer as a contact so she can help you with that. And I'm going to post those questions inside the chat. And again, this can be a very good discussion to have about Reels and ways in which we feel we can start using Reels. Okay. Any comments, questions? Okay, perfect. So with that, I'm gonna let Jennifer close the meeting for today. Thank you so much for attending.
Thank you, Eliana. Thank you, Andrew. Thank you, Rebecca. Julia, thank you for everyone for all your great ideas. We will send in the wrap up, we'll send the engaged link. But I think we can also add it right now, Julia, if you can do the chat. Everyone brought up some really great, challenges, current issues, one about TikTok, and then someone else just posted, with the Jamboard and the Padlet, there are accessibility issues, and we've been working in the background trying to find more accessible options. One thing that Rebecca has brought up before is that you can use certain options in terms of text, in terms of background, to make it more accessible. It's still not perfect, but even our accessibility expert here in OSEP didn't have great ideas of other ways to do the same thing. One of the things is that we had to check and make sure every one of our participants could access it. And once we knew that that would be the case, we went ahead and used it. But it's true that we would not have done it in a broader scope where we're not sure who's going to participate. We don't know about the people who are part of the group. But we did get an idea of lucid education, having a tool that could be used like a Padlet or a Jamboard. And so I'll add that to our, ironically, I'll add that to our Padlet. But we got to keep on bringing up these challenges. We got to keep on trying to work with them and doing our best and seeing that need, and hopefully that the folks who create the technology will start to meet up. But a lot went into this meeting, including your participation, and hopefully it met your needs. If not, we're also open to that kind of feedback. But in the meantime, in our month and a half between meeting, the facilitators will be looking at all the information you gave us today, updating the Mimosa, and creating a plan going forward for the next year so that you know what's ahead of you. And if you have experts or resources to recommend, we need that from you, because we are smarter for having all these different perspectives. And we do appreciate you just bringing this here today. So have a good rest of your day.
Thank you.
Thanks,
and
everybody.
Thank you, Shoshana, for being a rock star and getting this all organized and running smoothly.